Welcome to Realationshitz, where we talk about real shit in relationships. I am your wife.
And I'm your husband.
And today we are talking about things to discuss before marriage.
What was some of those things that we need to discuss before marriage?
So some of the obvious things are, like finances and how many kids you want and things like that. That's the most common things. Some of the things people don't think about is going into further details about the kids. So yeah, you might agree on how many. Mm-hmm. You might agree on the names and things like that. You all daydream about that. But some of the things that people don't talk about is if you two are different religions, what religion do you want to raise your children in? If you, if you want to live in the same state that you're living in, if you would ever compromise on moving to a different state, what type of living situation you want? Do you want to continue to rent? Do you want to buy a house? Do you want to buy multiple houses? Do you want to build a house, or do you want to just bought a pre-built house? So today we're going to discuss some of those topics.
I think one of the biggest things for me, first and foremost, is like religion. I can't marry a Jewish person. I'm not against Jews.
Oh my God.
The religion is just difficult. Or of Indian descent, their religion is nope. They're pretty cool. I don't know how I'll be.
I don't think it's that you can't date or be with these people. I think you've never experienced it, so you don't understand it, and it's different from yours. So just say that.
Yeah, well, I just don't know how I personally would be like, I don't know how to compromise with that. So
because you haven't had to.
I did. It was almost a compromise with you being Catholic. I don't get it.
I mean, to be fair, that's how I grew up. So growing up Catholic, I went to a private school from pre-K to 8th grade. I grew up Catholic. I went to church like every other day. And by the time I was in high school, I was kind of burnt out on church. And my mom actually became non-denomination. I think that's what you call it, right?
Yeah.
I did not enjoy going to church. I experienced multiple different churches.
And I'm Baptist, so
it was not my thing. So, and yeah, he grew up Baptist. His family is very religious, and I love his family to death. I love him to death. I protested when he asked me to go to church because I'm just not a church person anymore.
Straight heathen out here.
I'm not a heathen. I pray. I believe in God and all of those things.
Oh, red flag. When she said all of those things, it's just it's a back burner thing.
No, like you can read the Bible. We could do Bible quotes and all of those things. But how do they say I'm spiritual? I'm not religious. And he accepted that.
I mean, yeah, just as long as, I'll just follow my lead in terms of I ain't gonna stray you to the point where you over exhausted with religion. I'm not that type of religious. Obviously, I do believe in going to church. I do believe in, constant communication with God and understanding him with, through his words, through prayer. And, I mean, I wouldn't say through service because, that just separates people who's willing to give in to people versus now, I'm doing this for God.
To be fair, I do attend church with him on occasion. It's not that I'm just like, no, we aren't going to church. And no, I'm not like that. I will go with him. It's normally for special occasions. I'm not going to lie. I was just so burnt out on church. Like, when I say I went to church all the time, I mean it. Like, I did the altar serving. We did, the prayer services during the week. I was with my grandmother a lot. My grandmother did, the rosary, and she read in church. So if we were with my grandmother, we were going to church with her. And we did not have a choice. So going to church on Fridays for school, and then Saturdays with my grandmother, and then sometimes Sunday mornings, because I altar served, and I was one of the few altar servers that would be available readily because my grandparents were in the church. My grandfather worked for the school when he was alive that I went to. So this was a thing. It was a lot. So by the time I got out of it, it was just a break.
I just had the blackety black treatment. Every Sunday, you get your behind up to go to youth. We had youth class, and then we had the actual church, and you had to be involved in everything. So I was in the choir. We had this thing called Bible sword
You
drill.
could sing a little bit better one.
Yeah, like you get forced into that. Like when your family figure out you got a specific talent that could go towards the church and the glorifying God, well, you're gonna do something. Even the last resort is, well, you be a youth usher, meaning you're a little behind, gonna stand by the door and open up these doors for the people who trickle in late throughout service. At the very least, you're gonna do that. But you are part of this church, you're gonna be involved in, which is a cool method to being like to understanding as a child to be involved in the church, which I wouldn't mind. Like as of now, if whatever church home I'll be a part of, I want to be involved with my talents, which would be videography. So yeah, that was instilled in me, which is cool. But again, blackety black church, Baptist, you got the shouting, you got the screaming, you got the tambourine ladies.
Hold on a second.
Tell them about your experience.
That type of stuff, I was not used to. I'm not sure if y'all understand Catholic Mass.
Blackety black versus
They are
Catholic.
very different from like Baptist and non-denomination.
Non-denomination is the closest thing to Baptist. I promise you.
Well, I'm saying it's different from Catholic.
Oh, it's big time. Yeah.
And the first time I experienced that, oh my God. Okay, the first time I experienced that was with my mom going to this, whatever church it was. I don't know, it was weird. And my mom, my mom like kind of forced me and my younger brother to go, you know how they call people to the front, it's like, if you want to give your life to God, blah, 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 whatever. Cool, that's all fine and dandy. I was still young, and my mom was like, come on, let's all get up. And I'm like, I don't want to get up in front of all these people. And we went, and this random man put his hand on my shoulder and was like, you're giving your life to God, like, that's great, whatever. And then this lady was standing next to me, and she started hooting and hollering, and then she just passed out. And I'm like, oh my God. And I started crying because I was scared. And I don't like stuff like that. I don't like the random screaming. I don't like the running around. I don't like the passing out. Like, I can't deal with that. Not only does it make me uncomfortable, it makes me laugh.
All right.
That's inappropriate.
I got a question. Would you rather the yelling, screaming experience, or like there's two churches you're going to choose: yelling and screaming, passing out, random hands touching your shoulders, or a Catholic church where they pass around the same cup and you have to drink that cup? You have
Why
to.
do I have to drink it?
It's the best of both, not evils, but the best of the worst.
Okay,
Which
before
one?
I even answer that question, that is how Catholic Mass is. Like, when you take communion, they hand you the little biscuit bread cracker thing.
Don't they put it on the tongue
And
for
then,
you?
yes, and
That's
so
gross.
it's
That's
the priest's
gross.
hand. He takes it, he puts it in your mouth, and you eat it, and then you all share one cup and drink wine. Gross.
That's nasty.
I threw a fit when I made my first communion because I did not want to drink out of that cup, and I got in trouble for that, and I don't understand how I got in trouble because gross. Anyway, I would take the passing out because I don't like spit, and I'm not about to share spit with nobody. It took me forever to share spit with this one, and it's my husband.
Well, you're not gonna be dismissed with the spit. I can tell you that much because again, if you choose that one, that means you gotta go up to the altar. They're gonna lay hands on you, and guess what? They usually this close to you. On people laying hands on. And Lord, I just want to thank you.
No, you didn't
Please.
say all of that. You can't.
That's part of that
you
Baptist
can't amend
experience.
it.
Well,
You
of that
cannot amend
level.
it. Can I be the first person to drink out the cup?
No.
The Catholic?
No, because you're never the first person.
Actually, I could be the second person. No, let me tell you
That's
how.
better.
Let me tell you, it is the better because I could just turn the cup. Let me tell you how. Because whenever you altar serve, you help the priest set everything up. So as a result, the cup is cleaned after every mass. You see the cup clean.
Okay.
He pours the wine in the thing, whatever. The priest takes his sip, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And then the altar service can take communion, whatever. Cool.
Okay.
So I could be second. And I could just not drink on the side that he drank off of.
Excuse me for not being Catholic. I have a question. Aren't the helpers of the priest usually little boys?
Not all the time. I was a helper and I'm not a boy.
Okay. Now you're a grown woman. So you wouldn't be a helper. Am I correct? So you go get The fifth, sixth spit swig of the communion cup, the blood of Christ.
Can I just not go to church?
That wasn't an option. However, I mean, I've seen a lot of movies where they like. I always wonder. I mean, you see, it's very rare you see movies where they have like you see interracials, but you never see like different backgrounds. That's why like Love Is Blind, one of the favorite shows because I be wondering about that type of stuff. What was his name? Kyle? What was it called with the big ears?
Yes.
Kyle and old girl when he was like, I don't believe in God, and she swore, which I don't think that was the actual reason.
That was a whole different, don't even get into it.
But I get to an extent, and even like, what are you willing to do knowing your spouse's or partner or person you're dating's background in terms of religion?
But that's exactly why it's important to talk about it before marriage, because for us, I wanted him to understand that as much as I do believe in God and I pray and all of that, like, I don't want to be forced into going to church, and I don't want to force my children into going to church. Mm-hmm. And I know that he grew up going to church, and his family is big in the church and things like that, and he finds it important. And I want him to understand, like, yes, you can make that decision. If you want to bring your kids to church, that's great, but you're not going to force me, and you're not going to force them to a certain extent. We're going to let them experience it, and I will attend with them. Like I said, I normally go on special occasions, but that's something that we will try as a family, and it's something that we have to compromise on because, like I said, I don't go to church every Sunday. I didn't whenever we first met, and he knew that, and he was used to going to church pretty much every Sunday, and he has that as being important, and I'm not going to take that away from him. So before we got married, that was one of the bigger things we had to talk about. On how we wanted to raise our children in the church. And I want him to understand, which we've talked about a few times, mm-hmm. that if they get to a point where they're like, I am not enjoying this is not something that's bringing me happiness, we can sit and talk about it and see if it's something specific that is making them uncomfortable or something like that, to see if they still want to go. But if they come to us with that, like, we have to understand, and we can't force them into it, because I was forced into it and I was miserable.
Yeah. I think there's a level of forcing. Like, whenever, I ain't gonna lie, looking back on it, and there's a reoccurring story I always hear. You, at the end of the day, you really appreciate, like my grandmother, like, it don't matter how late you was up that Saturday night, you going to church the next morning. And it was a running joke for the longest, because me and my cousins, we didn't want to wake up, but Lord have mercy, it's Sunday morning, you hear Marvin Sapp and Kirk Franklin and
but I think
Fred
that's
Hammond
different
jamming.
Because if they already told you, like, hey, tomorrow we're going to church, and you choose to stay up until 5 o'clock in the morning, that's your fault. Like, that can't, I'm not saying that can be a reason. That's not a reason at all. Just because you chose to do something and you knew you had something. I'm talking about if they're going and the whole time they are there, they're uncomfortable, like it's not their type of environment, or if we can make it more comfortable for them. Say we go, right? Mm-hmm. And we have all these random people coming up to our child, and it's like, oh, you're so cute. I remember whenever you was knee-high to a grasshopper. Like, if that is what's making them uncomfortable, we can help that. We can stop that for them to see if it makes it a more enjoyable environment for them.
Right.
So I think it's give and take, and if it's to a point where we can't make it comfortable for them, and every time they go they're uncomfortable, then that's something we have to discuss. Yeah.
Like, if you see Father so-and-so looking at you weird, yeah, okay, yeah. Oh my God. Well,
anyway,
we ain't going that far.
Another thing that is important to talk about before marriage is, you want to talk about exes, or you want to talk about finances first?
We can go exes.
Okay, you want to tell the story?
Oh, I mean, I had to basically cut off, like, in terms of friendship or like lingering exes.
Both.
That story. So when we dated, I had like,
you don't have to give the names, but I want that story. The day before or the week before our wedding?
Man, so like the week before our wedding, there was one specific ex who was the last ex before I started dating her, decided to like hit me up out of the blue. It was random.
It wasn't random. She's been following you.
And like, which is weird. I didn't know who she was, but I don't know. It was, she decided to just basically be surprised when I told her like, look, yeah, I'm getting married like next week, and she was all distraught, like, oh, you're getting married?
Like, how dare you get married?
Like, how you get... that was the Shelby.
You're so stupid.
That was Shelby.
That is
Terrence
not the
Howard.
ex's name.
Yeah, that's not her name. That's Best Man Holiday and Best Man's type stuff. But other than that, yeah, it was weird. And then I was like, I told her about it, like, obviously, so it wouldn't look weird if she decided to keep calling some nonsense. But I'm like, what are we doing right now? What made this okay? But I guess it was the last shot to make sure that I didn't go through with it. And she was like subliminal throwing herself, can she do what I can do? All kind of nonsense. And has she ever done this for you?
That's not. Shut up.
It was some I said subliminal.
You didn't tell me that part.
I did.
No, you
didn't.
not.
You didn't want to hear it.
No, the main thing you told me about was what I was pissed off about.
What?
Okay, so this is what I remember from the situation. Essentially, she hit him up, whatever, called him, blah, 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 was trying to, how they check in.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And she was telling him how she was having mental health things and, like, how she just wanted to talk to him and how she's surprised that he's getting married and all of that. And the person I am, first of all, I understand mental health. I know it's real. Like, that's not what I'm talking about.
She has some mental health issues, though.
My concern was the fact that, he was talking to her. Like, you shouldn't have talked to her. And we had this conversation, so it's fine now. But I was like, you shouldn't have talked to her. You should have just ended the conversation with, I'm getting married. We have nothing to discuss. So, like, if you wanted to discuss something, that should have been 5 years ago. Because we were together for 5 years at that point. What you calling for?
Mm.
The second thing was, he has a very soft heart, and I love that about him, and I love that he's always willing to help people. But I share certain things with people I am comfortable sharing with, and he shared personal information of me with this girl who, A, I don't know, and B, who does not have good intent for me, because why are you calling my man?
Mm.
So that's what I was upset about. And I understood where he was coming from, but we had never had that conversation about me not being comfortable with him sharing my information with people, certain things about me to other people. And we sat and we talked about it, and I explained to him what was and wasn't okay to say and how I felt about the conversation, and he was honest with me and said what they talked about and all of that.
It was a very long, I remember now.
It was a very long
it was literally about a
conversation.
book and on some religious stuff too. Like, to kind of like kill it from that, like, yeah, it's almost a soft-hearted gesture to a fault. And looking back, I was like, what the fuck? Why I even entertain that shit?
Yep.
And I feel like I didn't do nothing. I feel like she didn't even get the book.
She did. She probably didn't. She just wanted your attention. And the fact that she found out that you were about to get married, that's why she was trying to keep you talking for as long as she could. She didn't care what y'all talked about. She just wanted your attention. And it's one of those situations where whenever your ex pops up, it's like, let me see how long I can keep this going for. Because if they talking to me, are they really happy where they at? Like,
the more the chance.
Exactly.
Like, the more you, like, looking back, it's like the more energy, time you give to that ex, is the more they feel as though I can have another bit of time, more of their energy. So be careful with that.
And my main problem with that specific ex was whenever we first started dating, she tried to pull something that I pulled a long time ago. And I know that it works because I did it. Whenever she hit you up and was like, her little cousin or niece or something asked about you and wanted to talk to you. And I was like, and I saw the text because he was driving and I had his phone. And I'm like, you're not responding to that. Like, mm-mm. And he was like, what you talking about? Like I was close to this obscure relative of this person. I was like, no, because I did it before. And it's an easy way to get people to talk to you because, yeah, like me, you might have problems, but you and my relative had no issues, and they just don't talk to you.
It was a cute little nieces too. Mm-hmm, I remember that.
Yeah, and I was having none of it at all. And I don't know if you ever reached back out because I was fresh in our relationship.
No, I didn't.
But yeah, I was having none of it at all. But a little off topic, but yeah, that's important to talk about what you're comfortable with and what you're not comfortable with in regards to communication with exes. Of course, if they have kids with each other, that's something different. Do set a boundary with that, of course, because you know some people with their baby mama, baby daddy, that's a whole different situation.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, what you think about exes in terms of no child, but like friendship? Like, okay, this person's an ex, but we are currently friends. Like, I'm curious on your thoughts about that.
So I know. So
What? You know what? Kyle, we don't have that situation right now.
no more.
I never was like friends
Not
with
with
an ex.
you, with me.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, I know from my standpoint, and I can get my perspective on that. But I'm curious what you think about.
So, based on experience, it's not worth it. If you're really, really trying to have a productive relationship and turn it into something real, it's not worth it. They're an ex for a reason. I understand some people can change and blah, 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 but it's really, really not worth it. And if.
So you saying nobody? So you saying nobody could be friends, or from a guy to a girl? A guy cannot be friends with
nobody can be friends.
The ex girl.
I'm not saying nobody can be friends. I'm saying for the sake of your relationship, it's not worth trying it.
So what if this friendship was established? Like, we dated in high school, we're in college now, and how about that? What if it was on that level? Like we tried it out because we were so much as friends in high school. We decided to date. We were like, nah, this ain't work out. It's too weird.
The only thing I can honestly say is if it was a serious relationship, and y'all know what I mean by serious relationship, it's not worth it.
Okay, so
if you was past the little kid, like, oh, that's my boyfriend. Oh, we went to a dance. We had a kiss. No,
so we had a dinner table. We trying to fill each other out, figure out our past or whatnot. And you asked me about an ex, and I was like, I'm friends with one of my exes. Your follow up question probably be, have you ever had sex with this person? Would that be a solid question?
Yes.
For you to know, like, okay, this can't.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be weird. It would be weird because if you friends with this person, all you gonna think about is the like cut scene from The Best Man. Like,
exactly.
Like,
that's my point.
I'm always in the back of my mind.
It's not worth it because at the end of the day, friendships can mean a lot of different things. He has friends that are female, and whenever we first started dating, I was like, I don't know about that. And now they don't bother me. I mean, like, they're his friends. Like, they're truly friends, and I understand it. And after talking to them, and hopefully after them getting to know me, like, I understand that it's nothing more than a friendship. They've never had anything more than a friendship. Nope. So I get that. And that doesn't bother me. But that has to be discussed at the beginning of the relationship. Whenever he told me, I was like, that's kind of weird. I don't know how I feel about that. And it took some time for me to get used to it. But if he would have been like, this is my friend. I hang out with her like twice a week. She's my ex. We had sex. No.
Red flag.
Which one you working with? Because we're not doing that.
Yeah. And fellas, you got to set a boundary from the very beginning. I mean, especially... that's gonna be really hard with fellas because somehow we always want to have that one in the back pocket in case of you never want to have that one in the back pocket and her being that ex/friend. But in terms of friendship, female, let the female know in the very beginning. I have a friend. She's a female. It's nothing beyond that. We've been friends for this long. Like, the only way you can truly believe that is if you meet her and you understand there's no ill intent. And you could probably feel her out to see if there is something that you might see.
Two caveats with that. Whenever you introduce them, make it in an environment that's A, not going to be awkward, and B, that it gives them a chance to actually talk and see y'all interact. But not just that, you also have to set that boundary with your friend to be respectful of your relationship.
Yeah, like texting at certain times and stuff like that.
Texting and calling at certain times.
That have to be a thing. Got to make sure, like... Because once you're in a relationship, you can't be giving too much time to your friend, especially as a female, because...
Everything is suspect at the beginning of a relationship.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just the honest truth. Everything could be innocent, but at the beginning of a relationship, especially if, like, we had that issue, at the beginning of our relationship, he had a friend that would call him at all hours of the night, and I'm like, bro, what is going on? Like, there is no reason that any female other than your mother or your grandmother or somebody in your family for an emergency should be calling you or texting you at this time. And this was me just getting to know that they were truly just friends, of course. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, you gotta do something. You gotta say something. And after a while, like, it did stop. Mm-hmm. But after a while, I was just kind of like, I don't care. Like, it's her. Like, I don't care.
That's a homie.
I don't care. But had we not had those conversations, that could have been a bigger issue in our relationship, if we're being very honest.
All right. Could have. And, of course, there's going to be some times where there's going to be some issues down the line. But you got to go back to the foundation that was set in the very beginning, that conversation. Like, look, this person, you said that they just your friend, so I need to know why this person hitting up this time. So now we need to add on top of that, make sure they ain't hitting you up around this time until I can at least fill them out, you know. But yeah, I mean, exes could be definitely, it could be tricky in terms of exes being a...
Exes should not be a part of your relationship.
Ex you had sex with should not be a part of your...
Like I said, if it is like the little kitty... Oh, that was my girlfriend, boyfriend. You know how in like 6th, 7th, 8th grade, it's like, oh yeah, I dated them. Mm-hmm. And y'all just kissed. Like, okay, like y'all kissed, so what? Like y'all was 2 years old.
What if they made out? Kissing and making out is different.
You understand what I'm saying?
No, I'm just curious about like the full extent.
You understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, but in terms of people who's curious.
If you went anything further than kissing, I don't care.
Dry humping. I'm curious.
You're making it difficult.
I want to because I'm curious. Like
I said, anything past kissing, no. For the sake of your relationship, no. Don't do it.
That's fair.
Okay. Now, the next thing I want to discuss that you should discuss before marriage is finances.
Before marriage.
So
if you ain't serious about somebody, then if you ain't asking them somebody about their finances, you ain't serious about continuing the relationship to marriage, because that's really important. That's everything. That make and break an entire marriage.
And that's not just to say like a month into your relationship, like, oh, how much money you make. Like, no. Nah. This is like, I'll say a year max. Like, that's whenever you start having that discussion. Unless something comes up.
I wouldn't say a year. I'd say less than a year, but I wouldn't give it. I'd say at least more than.
I'd say max a year. Like, nothing past a year. You shouldn't be talking about it.
Yeah, I'd give it about 5-6 months, because I mean, you in a bubble for 4 or 5 months, so you understand the type of job they have. I mean, you ain't got to be all in their pockets, but you can put 2 and 2 together. The type of car they drive, the type of place they stay, the type of job they have, and their living circumstances. So, kind of ties in.
To an extent.
To an extent, what you mean?
You can't just base it off the kind of car they drive or where they live.
No, I'm saying like within 4 or 5 months. So you in the bubble, so you know, okay, you can kind of feel out. Okay, you probably on that college kid stage where you got a good job, but you ain't a job that's gonna keep you secured with a wife and kid right now. You know what I'm saying? So, finances super important. I give it max 4, 5, 6 months if you're really serious, because some people will be ready to be engaged by a year and a half. Some people, like, it depends on age, you know what I'm saying? So
I think it depends on the relationship that you're in and how quickly you guys are trying to move. 6 months should be around the mark where you start discussing, like, not just income or bills, but also debt. Because that's very important, because when you marry somebody, you marry their debt too. Uh-huh. So their debt is your debt is their debt. So if you marry somebody without knowing their credit history and their debt to income ratio and all of that, yada, 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 guess what? You may have married somebody who has $1 million in debt. And guess what happens whenever you divorce? You got $500,000 in debt.
Yes, sir.
So it's very important to discuss that, because if you want to live a certain kind of lifestyle and they aren't on that level yet, you have to decide for yourself if you want to try to help them get to that level, if you want to keep that lifestyle up for yourself.
Or if you believe in the dream. And this one right here believed in the dream to a fault. We touched on that in a later episode, but your boy was down and out for the better portion. Like, to this day, the debt to up there ratio is still more times it was together I was in debt versus now where we're stable. And it was hard. So you could, depending on somebody's circumstances, because again, we met each other in college. So it was understandable. Got out of college, figuring it out. Still figuring out how long you gonna figure it out. And that's where you guys sometimes set the timeline on stuff, things like that. So
yeah,
it's cool.
The finance thing, that was a big issue for us, which we talked about a little
big
bit.
Issue.
But I had no idea that he had what? You had 3 credit cards or something like that?
I had two. That was, one was maxed out. The other one was.
I had no clue. I had no idea. And we were talking one day, and he was just like, "Yeah, my card's maxed out." Like, and I was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, wait a second.
All right.
Because we had never discussed finances. We weren't engaged or anything at that point.
I was broke. Yeah.
And I had no idea. I just assumed that he just made enough money to make enough money, just like I was making enough money to make enough money.
I made enough to make me a bologna sandwich and pay off all my bills.
Yeah, and I could not understand why, because like I was so confused. Like I would be like, "Okay, we need groceries," and he would be like, "Can you get it?" And I'm like, "What?"
I don't remember asking you to get groceries. I don't remember that.
I still have the papers somewhere where it was like I paid for like all the bills, the rent, the this, that, and all you had to do was pay your credit card. Like, I have the agreement that we came up with.
The financial plan?
Yes.
I don't remember me having to ask for groceries.
Groceries were in
there.
Or
was it, when this was?
Texas.
Okay, then yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
I know what I'm talking about.
I'm trying to think what period of time this was in, and now, yeah, okay. That makes a lot of sense. I was down and
I had no
out.
clue. And at that point, because he never voluntarily gave any information about his money.
Of course not. No.
I gave him information. Like,
yeah, because she was comfortable. I mean, as a man, you don't want to be like, yeah, baby, you don't want to be the borrower, because, I mean, I was raised to never have to ask a woman. I was raised to always be the provider and the protector, which is usually how households want to be looked at, as the man.
And I'm very independent.
And yeah, she's independent, and then she came in with her independent finances.
That's a whole nother situation.
So it was like, okay, or is nigga gonna be holding me back, or like, what we doing here?
So that was my thing. Whenever we had the conversation, I was like, you need to tell me how much you make, how much debt you're in, like what you gotta pay, what you don't gotta pay, like where does your money go? Like, I was playing no games.
And this was deep in the relationship. It wasn't like right off the bat.
Correct. This is year 3, 4?
Probably year 3, 4. So
something like that.
Yeah, it's not like right off the bat, first date, asking questions.
And we
like
had
that.
just started like living together on our own,
mm-hmm.
and like adult responsibilities.
Yeah, so if you with somebody that again, that's going to be at the end mark, that's going to be with you probably till marriage, then yeah, you definitely need to have some questions about their debt, because I mean, right off the bat, you don't ask that, but knowing the person that if you really plan on being with that person for the rest of your life, I backed away from her help, because again, as a man, it feels almost embarrassing to like know that.
And I pushed my help on him, because if we're going to live together, you're going to let me help you when you need help, because you're not about to cause us to struggle more. That is what it is.
She looked me in my eyes. She was like, look, your debt gonna be my debt, but guess what? My finances will be your finances. Well, it was a hard pill to swallow for her, especially since it's like, I'm taking on debt. I don't want to, but for us to build, I can't let you bring me down, or I can't let this relationship be brought down because of your financial issues. And it's a hard pill to swallow for me. Because again, I didn't want to admit that I was like terrible with money.
And I was not. I helped him come up with a financial plan to pay off his credit cards. I helped him budget his money monthly, to the point where now I don't even have to worry about him. Like, he has a savings account. He runs his own business account. He always pays the bills on time. Like, I don't have to worry about none of that. So
I take care of my kids.
So it's important to instill what you have in you, and for me it was money management, in him, and now I don't have to worry about it, and now he can do it on his own. And I feel comfortable whenever our kids are gonna stop chewing in the microphone, and I feel comfortable for whenever we have our kids that he is gonna be able to instill that in them, because he learned from his mistakes. I don't ever want to come up to him and be like, you did this wrong, here's how you fix it, go fix it. I wanted to help him understand where he went wrong and how to fix it on his own, and how to course correct if he ever gets in that situation again. And I feel like we worked well on that together.
Yeah, it was a struggle in the beginning. It was some humbling that needed to take place, but it worked. And if you're willing to stick that out with your partner, then by all means, as long as the intent behind it is not for your own personal financial gain, is for the better of that relationship. So in terms of getting like a home, like that was a whole thing, because I was still on a good path, but I still wasn't officially there. And she came to the rescue on finances. I came to the rescue on my part.
It's a give and take.
It was
in a
definitely a
partnership.
give and take. Yes.
And for us, I was ready to buy a house. I knew what I wanted. We found a house. We wanted the house. And certain things didn't work out certain ways, but we both came to an agreement how we were going to handle the house situation, and we got it done. That's the most important thing. Mm-hmm. And we were both happy with the solution.
Right. But yeah, so I mean, we're gonna touch up on it again, like in other episodes as well too. But overall, like the financial thing is something very important to touch on. Very important. Definitely not in the beginning, because it could come across a little bit extra for first date. I don't even know. Feel the person out. Personally, I say 4 or 5 months. And then and if you really know, like, I think I want to spend the rest of my life with this person, possibly get engaged within the next year, and then yeah.
But that goes back to talking about the timelines in which you want things in the relationship and how you talk about it. Talking about what you want is something to do at the very beginning. Set that expectation. It could be date 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. Early on. If you want to be married by age 47 and you 25, you got some time. Let them know. If you want to be married by age 30 and you're 28, you need to let them know. That causes a lot of arguments between people. And if you set your expectations at the beginning, I mean, hey, I told you what I wanted. If you can't meet my expectations, let me know. No hard feelings. Let me know. But I'm not going to be around. And I feel like that's fair.
Right.
And some of the other things to talk about before marriage specifically, one of the things we had to discuss is a fun one. Kids in general. So I never wanted to physically birth a child. Never been my thing. My mom has told me since I was younger that I always said I wanted to adopt. I told him, I'm not having no children. We are going to adopt. That's what I want. And he said,
I want kids times 3.
Biological.
I want 3 kids by my wife.
And I was like, this is not going to work. We want 2 completely different things. We need to meet in the middle somewhere. And the agreement we came up with was 1 biological. We were going to adopt later and then see how the third one work out.
Probably a surrogate.
Yeah.
When the money's right.
That was our compromise. And for me, I wanted to make sure the day before our wedding, the night before, I was like, hey, just so you remember, these are the things we discussed. And that was the first thing I brought up. I was like, this is what we said. And I'm not going back on it. Like,
yeah,
this is what we agreed upon. And I told him, if you are not comfortable with this,
you go all the way now.
No hard feelings.
Which I respected her for. And You explained what the conclusion we came to, the one and so yeah, we came to the conclusion one and done, and then adoption. So she explained, like, did you want to go in more detail about why you didn't want one
You can.
at all? I mean, because she's like we discovered that she's very tiny, so like she may not have the bearing hips of a like regular size human being because she's considered a little person.
No, I'm not.
so like that was the issue. But my issue with the adoption thing, like if you don't ever remember anything to why I want a child by you, remember this. And this could be something scripted and you remember on a flashcard, but the full reason why I wanted another version of her, because I want a girl, is because I love this woman so much that I want a spinning image of a girl of her. And I know the life that she had as a young girl, and I just want to it feels like me pouring the love that I have into our little girl would bring out or almost cancel out the young girl love that she didn't receive. So to like, if you really want to tie it down to anything, that's why I really want a little girl, because I don't even think I've told you that like before. That is the true reason why I want a little girl. And she knows I'll be a great dad to this little girl.
Oh my God, this man.
So like just her thinking about that, like, and like I promise it probably will cancel out like, wow, at least my little girl will have a better childhood than me, because this man here is gonna make sure that happens. And then and then it's gonna be another version of her, but a little girl version of her that I could just love in as a father, and I could love her, the woman, as a husband. And it's just like but yeah. Sorry, I forgot to tell you that. You know it's gonna suck if a boy comes around, you be like, damn, I gotta give him a girl after that.
Shut up. Oh, Jesus.
I really meant to tell you that. Like, that's the true reason why I really want a little girl. Like,
I love you.
I love you too. I love you so much that I need to love you in the alternate way.
Okay. Let's get back to this.
And my negatives towards like adopting, of course, you always want a child to look like you. You always want personally, I want a child to look like me. I want a child to pick up traits between me and the mom. You could be like, oh, that's you, or that's me. You want that. But at the same time, I always feel bad. And maybe somebody can educate me. I'm educating myself as she is, but about the I want that one method. Like,
I don't think it's just I want that one. It's, for me, I've always loved kids. Everybody that knows me knows I love kids. I would rather you ask me to babysit your child than ask me to go out to the club with you. Everybody know that. And to think of all the kids, and when I say adopt, I don't mean just adopt a baby. Like, I am open to as late as teen years. He would prefer something younger, which I understand. But to think about all the kids that are wanting a family or wanting a parent, some of these kids just want a person. Like, they just want somebody to be there for them. And I want to give that to somebody. Now, I did tell him, like, if he's more comfortable with once our child is older, like, you know, because you never know what these children go through in other foster homes and all of that. Once our child is older, we can do it. Like, I'm open to that. That's fine. Like, we can compromise on that a little bit. But, and I understand where he's coming from, and he wants a child that looks like him, acts like him, looks like me, acts like, I get that. But also, it's still, like, a child that we adopt can still have our traits, because you pick up things from people.
That you
so
do.
It's like, as they grow, they might be funny like you because you crack jokes. Like, you never know until you're in the situation.
All right. Yeah, that's true. It was always that oh, I want to choose that one. And yeah, sorry guys, you had to make the cut. So here's
No, I think it's you get to meet them and stuff. Like I've never been through the process.
And that's another thing. I don't want it to be a talent show. Like who deserves my love?
I think it's you read like their profile or whatever, and it's like the adoption agency also interviews you and finds kids that they feel would be a best fit for your family. Like they're not gonna put a kid that loves being outside hiking through mountains and stuff in a family that likes to sit and watch TV all day.
Yeah, they won't give us a white kid. Yeah,
Shut
we get that.
up,
it's just, I just hate. I guess, and that's the thing that tears me. It's like, man, there's so many other kids that just won't have a home. But hey, little buddy, turn in the back seat. Hey, we got you, huh?
Stop.
And it just feels weird. But I mean, I know once I got him. Cool, trained you up, brought you into a new home. But in the back of my mind, like, this is going on. There's so many auditions.
But that's the point of talking about this before marriage. Can you imagine if I would have sprung this on him like in 5-10 years and been like, hey, I want to adopt. And he's like, what?
I'm saying, what is this, a talent show?
Like, no, let's
America's
not do
Got
that.
the Smiths.
And that being a dream of mine for so long and him shooting it down, it would be devastating. So that's why it's important to talk about it before marriage. And it's just all these things that we're bringing up are stuff that are things that we talked about that we feel like whenever we brought it up to our family and friends, they were like, y'all really talked about a lot of stuff. And it's like, yes. Yeah, we talked about a lot more things than y'all think.
Gots to.
And we had counseling with a pastor who just so happened to be my amazing father-in-law. We had counseling with them, and it just became something that was natural for us to do whenever we have an issue. And although sometimes our communication when we have issues in the moment isn't where it's supposed to be, we made a rule that we're not supposed to go to sleep angry or upset or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And we hold each other accountable if we let that slip through our thoughts. And he's done that to me recently where I was upset about a situation and I tried to go to sleep without telling him good night and I loved him.
I turned on the light.
He came and he turned off that light, turned on that light.
Waiting.
And was like, so what's going on? And I was upset, but we talked about it. And
you may not get through the whole, like you may not have everything resolved, but know at least somebody make the effort to know that, look, I don't want to go to bed 100%, like at least not talking, because sometimes it could be arguments back and forth, or it could be like a silent treatment between the two, and you shouldn't end the night on silence or like on an argument. Just at least some type of understanding to know where their headspace is, because it may take an overnight rest to kind of get your thoughts together and realize, okay, yeah, let me hear, at the very least, hear out what is going on in your head and what's going on in my head, and if we could come back the next day, because it could be late, to figure out where our thoughts was, where we could have went wrong based off of what your perspective was on the situation.
And it's okay to voice an opinion about how you felt about a situation, even if you're not ready to discuss it in detail. But never go to bed without telling them that you love them. But these are just some of the things that we wanted to talk about the things that you should talk about before marriage.
Yes, indeed. So this has been Realationshitz. And in this episode, I'm your husband.
And I'm your wife. And remember, it's always okay to agree to disagree, but
if you ever are hungry, always heat up some meat. This has been a special holiday episode. Bye.